Yeah, so I think one of the comments that I get a lot when I run training is that I would love to add more visuals to my slide, but it takes so much time that most of the time it's just easier to add text. So I'm here to kind of give you some very quick tips that are in PowerPoint, but most people don't necessarily know about, and that make your life so much easier. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of go into my Home tab, and something as simple as a rectangle. So you might want a square on your slide, but if you go into the Shape menu, the only thing you can see is a rectangle. There's no square in there. So if you want to create one, you go and then you drag it, and then you can try and make it look like as much as a square as possible, but it's really, really hard. So maybe something like that, we can see in the size here that it's definitely not a square. But there's a very, very quick shortcut for this to kind of solve that problem. So if I delete this and then go back to my Home tab, Shape, and then go for the rectangle, and now I'm going to hold the Shift key just as I drag my shape, and boom, it's doing a perfect square. So if you hold the Shift key while you're dragging your shape and then release it, it's all perfect. It doesn't just work with rectangles, it also works with kind of ovals, circles. So if you want a perfect circle, boom, hold the Shift key, and there you are. Very quick, but saves a lot of time. Now, you might want to also move elements on your slide. So, for example, I've set up my step from a process, but I realized that it's not quite in the right place on the slide, and I want to move it a little bit more to the right. But I want to keep that alignment. It's kind of in the blue area, and I like it. So if you try to move it now, it wiggles a bit. You can't do a straight line just with your mouse. However, the Shift key enters again. So if you hold it while you're moving an object, it is moving in a perfect axis. It doesn't just work horizontally, you can also move it vertically like this. And it kind of helps you keep the alignment on your slide and how your objects are kind of positioned, which is also a massive time saver. To kind of push it up a notch, if you kind of want to have duplicates of the same content, I guess most people would do, good old Control-C, Control-V, and that does the trick. So we're going to do that to just see what it does. And the problem is that when you do Control-C and Control-V on a shape is that it copies it a little bit down, a little bit to the right, and it can be annoying then to kind of go and then try to realign it, even if you've got some helpful guides from PowerPoint. You can also do Control-D to duplicate it, but it does exactly the same thing. So not quite where you want your shape to be. However, there's this very, very useful shortcut, which is the Control key. So I'm going to kind of click on this shape. And now I'm going to hold the Control key down. And you can see that my cursor slightly changes to have a little plus next to it. If I now drag this, it's creating another shape for me. So it is a very quick way to duplicate a shape. You can do several like this just by holding the Control key and dragging. And the magic happens when you kind of combine the Control and a Shift. So we've seen in a previous slide that Shift lets you kind of copy shapes on the same axis. Move shape on the same axis. So we're going to add also Control to this, Control and Shift. And that means you can create shapes that are on the same axis, all are perfectly aligned and without any trouble. So that makes kind of creating visuals, creating diagrams a little bit more easier, especially if you want it to be quick. Now, Richard and I showed you, maybe more Richard than I for now, some elements that are all in this ribbon here. And I think you might have seen from at least the Boolean tools, the one where you interact with shapes and sending things forwards and backwards, that it's quite difficult to kind of get to them. You often have, if I go there, if I want to move this backward, you have to go to shape format, and it takes quite a while to get there. You have to go there and then here and then this menu here. Now, you might see that here I've got something called the quick access toolbar. And if you don't use PowerPoint a lot, it might actually be somewhere up in here with your undo button. It's really annoying to have it here. I wouldn't recommend it. So definitely, if you have it in here, you can show below the ribbon. It will appear here, and it will be easier to get to when you have kind of working in the slides. Now, you can add pretty much everything in PowerPoint into your quick access toolbar. You just need to right-click on it and say so. So, for example, I might do a lot of charts in my slide, and I want a very quick way to kind of insert charts. You can go there and say right-click and add to the quick access toolbar. And it will show up in here. But for me, it's going to show up all the way down there because I have quite a lot of things. But you can add functions that you use quite a lot in there and access them very quickly. Definitely a good thing to do if you're using PowerPoint a lot. We've got a file on brightcarbon.com that you can download that's already populated if you don't want to go and do it all yourself. So feel free to do that. Something else that we've got, and this is slightly different. This is an add-in, so it is a little bit of software that kind of integrates with PowerPoint. And BrightSlide is something we developed by talking about people who do a lot of PowerPoint and get annoyed by some stuff missing. So we try to fix a lot of things that are wrong with PowerPoint with it. And it's a massive time saver, lots of kind of productivity shortcut that really help us. And there is a lot to show. So I'm going to, I'm going to try and access it. There we go. Can't see, there we go, it's gone finally. So BrightSlide tab is just there, and it's got lots of different icons and functions that you can use. So let's have a quick look at alignment. Here's a slide. This is a slide that you've done for your boss, 3 main points. You're really happy with it. It looks nice. It's really cool design. And then you send it to your boss, and your boss looks at it and is like, oh, you know, it could do with a few more points in there and a few more details, and everything's wrong and everything's moved out of place. And you're just really, really sad. So alignment tools are really useful to kind of get things back, realign and in like something that looks nice. And the way you do this is, if you go into your shape format here, there is this little menu that says align. And it's got lots of function. Again, lots of hidden things in menus and sub-menus. And you might want to say, hey, I want to realign those all on the all at the top. So maybe something align top, and now they're all back to where they should be. However, we've got like not much space here, lots of space here. We can do something called distribute horizontally. So there we go. Now they are back all in the right place. So lots of tools in there to align things. However, we have those little bits here that also need to be aligned. And if I select this one and then select these two and go to say align center, which is something I'd like to do, so everything's centered, you can see that this moved slightly and then this moved also slightly. So now this circle is not as aligned as it was before. And this is because PowerPoint takes the kind of central point. So to see it a little bit more, it's going to take the middle between those two elements here to align everything, which can be a little bit annoying when you already have some set elements there that you want to align to. And what BrightSlide do is that you can now change that it doesn't align just to selection, it aligns to the first selected object. So I've selected my big circle first, and I go to center align, which I've got in my quick access toolbar, and now it's just moving the text at the bottom, which is just a massive time saver. So I'm going to do that with all of them. Align center, so now all my text is aligned to the circle. And I think these also need to be aligned. So I'm going to align to the top, and there we go. And in a matter of seconds, your slide is fixed and back to the pretty state it was at before.